back from his remote location. Was it a long trip? No,
It was not very long, and I wanted to be here for CPaaS because it's my favorite subject.
CPaaS is your favorite subject.
It
Tell
is.
us all about it.
So CPaaS is Communication Platform as a Service. It's the communication building blocks that are made available through APIs.
Is that new?
I like to think of it as contextual communications.
You're out of breath.
I know. You don't know where I was. 2 blocks down the road. So it's contextual communications, and really the trick is that you can build communications into any application, like Uber. The app from Uber has SMS and voice built in, makes it easy.
So what's the CPaaS part of Uber or Airbnb or Instagram or whatever? What's the CPaaS part of it?
So the trick is what you want to do when you have the app. At some point you want to say, okay, I picked whatever I want to do. Something's not working. I want to call somebody. You don't want to go back to your phone, dial a number. It has to be integral part of the application to make it easy to use. And that part, the communication part, is really what CPaaS is about.
Okay.
So it's the communication building block that you can use in your own application.
Anybody here uses CPaaS and said that's great?
I just mentioned in a previous session, I think one example is Microsoft Teams, including direct calling. If you look at multi-line applications where people want to have a conversation and on the other side the call center wants, can you show me by video your ticket, and you don't want to switch your device, but what you use, you make a picture of, let's say, or you open the video and directly on top of the line there will be a video connection established and you can exchange that data. So there are multiple, let's say, features already in practice doable at this moment, and that will enable, and it is not the traditional telecommunications anymore, it's more the underlying components facilitating API developments going forward. What we are doing is, let's say, developing a marketplace whereby together with Enable You and Rapid API, we connect marketplaces and enable MNOs and operators to go to the market quickly without doing all those heavily investments by themselves. So, and that gives the time to market will be significantly quicker for the enterprise community or the whatever users they want to focus upon.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think telcos have become kind of like a commodity providers. I mean, at the time of Mr. Bell, it was an exciting thing, telecommunication and telephones. But it has become, provide, something that everybody knows already, and you compete maybe on price, maybe a little bit on stability. But once you can make it really a building block of all kinds of new developments and just embed it totally into it, it becomes very useful in a lot of new places. So I think that, but of course, these kind of old telcos probably cannot move the fastest and do this. Well, first of all, it's a thought jump, but then it's also a technology jump. Yeah. But by really taking what you already have, chop it up in smaller pieces, and then expose it through APIs, it becomes super, super useful. And also you can actually probably charge more for it.
Now the example Uber was mentioned multiple times. In the beginning, the Uber app was also presenting the phone number of the taxi driver. Uber wanted to kill that. That switched to local DRDs, local access numbers. And that is legacy for an incumbent since decades. So what you see now is that those legacy, let's say, infrastructural telecommunications will enable APIs to act local, to keep the call local, to keep the video local. And that is what you do. You use the building blocks of the existing telecom infrastructure in combination with, let's say, marketplace developments. You need volume, and you can't have a marketplace for only 1 or 2 APIs. That doesn't fly off.
Let me switch to Raoul. Take us through your vision when it comes to the business perspectives of CPaaS. What's your favorite application?
Well, should I go back to Uber? I think it's just a
I was looking for new investment opportunities here.
Yes, certainly. So CPaaS is a space that I, as an analyst, have been looking at for more than 5 years. And it's very interesting right now that it is at the pivotal point. The reason for this, with the pandemic, a lot of organizations they're being forced to accelerate their digital transformation initiatives. So if you think back at the beginning of the crisis, a lot of companies were scrambling to maintain business continuity, hence the need to provide tools working from home, but also tools to continue that engagement with clients. So I think this trend, what we might have expected to happen in a period of maybe 2 years, it's now compressed in just a few months. We actually have a CPaaS market forecast that we had to adjust with different scenarios. We looked at it from different angles. Our expectation is that with this digitalization of the customer experience, it's actually going to be an even bigger opportunity. It will have a contraction in the near term, but longer term, CPaaS will probably explode. So it's a very big opportunity.
Okay, and I'll switch to Patrick in a second, but I want to watch a little video clip of a Dutch company. We talk about working remotely, but this company is called Beter Dichtbij, which means better close by. That's another
Now imagine, I need to
perspective.
go and see a doctor. What do? I have to make an appointment, I have to call them up. Or I could physically maybe not even go there. What are the possibilities? I'm having a discussion, an interview with Sander Bijl from Beter Dichtbij, in English, Better Close. They build a smart communication platform to ensure that me as a patient, I can actually get in touch with my doctor 24/7. Can you give us an insight of your dreams?
The dream at Beter Dichtbij is to make healthcare easier. Easier for the patients, easier for the GPs, easier for the doctors.
32 hospitals actually use the platform.
Some hospitals are using it in every way they can, and in some hospitals a few doctors are just starting.
And when you say usage, what is it you actually use?
The doctors use our platform to provide patients with messaging functionality, and they use it to video chat with patients if needed for consultation. It is a communications platform, and yes, it's about chat and about video chat now, but the general underlying idea is that using digital tools will increase the power of the relationship between the doctor and the patient.
You're intensifying the relationship almost.
We do, because people have their doctor in their pocket.
What is important for you in a partner? You have various partners that you use.
We built our video chat system based on the Ribbon communication platform. It has to be proven, stable, security, privacy, etc. But mainly it has to have a track record. We don't want to add something to the platform which is shiny and new but never been tested. There were days we had 90 hours of video chat on one day. So we have to have scalable, proven partners under our platform.
And we have again a little poll for you guys at home or wherever you are, which is about secure communication. The question is, what sectors need secure communication building blocks most? You can choose healthcare, government, logistics, commerce, finance, education, wine tasting. Well, whatever. Pick whatever you want. Patrick, you're still with us, right?
Yes, I am.
Terrific, wonderful. Hey, what about CPaaS? What's your perspective on it? I mean, is it so promising as some other people here in the studio mentioned?
It is. It's an important part of the overall Ribbon portfolio. And let me describe a little bit how we actually got into this business. So Ribbon is really a combination of a lot of companies coming together, invested very heavily in real-time communications. The big pieces being Nortel Communications, voice services, GenBand, Sonos Networks, Edgewater Networks. So we've looked at all of the intellectual property, about 400 patents in real-time communications. We decompose those into those communications APIs we were talking about the last panel for voice, video, chat, text, to make it more easily available for contextual communications, as Rod had mentioned. Now, what we've done is really made that platform available to carriers, right? If you think about the companies that I mentioned and really what our heritage is really building and supporting infrastructure builds for these large carriers around the world. So what we wanted to do is not compete with the carriers, but actually enable them to provide CPaaS services to be able to compete like with companies like Twilio was mentioned earlier. So when we talk about kind of the vision that Ribbon has to be in this space is we want to create lots of Twilios. We don't want to compete with Twilios. We want those carriers to have the ability to do that. And one of the example that you just showed here is really with our partner KPN, where they've got an API marketplace and they're using our voice and video APIs. So they're consuming those little pieces of communication, building it into the application. The other example, probably one of the largest carriers in the world, is AT&T. And that's a kind of a different approach where they came to us and said, look, we want to white label your entire CPaaS communication service because they're, quote, tired of having value sucked out of their network by the likes of Twilio and other people. So there is a unique place for carriers to be able to get into this space and really leverage the heritage they've got in terms of quality of service, trusted relationship with really large enterprises. And AT&T is even taking it a step further. They're looking at all of the 1-800 number customers that they've got. I think it's the toll-free services. And they're saying, how can they provide a better level of service rather than just providing a number that people can call for free? As Rod mentioned, right, it's really important for us to be able to have a richer experience, right? So what they've done is taken what we call live support, what they call their AT&T API marketplace click to connect, and allow you to be able to reach into a call center with a web RTC, with a front end from the web, so that if I'm doing a search on a e-marketplace and I'm having a hard time finding something, that search, when I can actually have an AI, one of the speakers talked earlier about artificial intelligence, the AI device, the chatbot, can actually say, are you happy with what you found? If not, promote that to talk to an agent who's got the full contextual communications available to them.
Wonderful. Susie, where do you see applications for CPaaS?
Wow. So if I look at the broader world in the developing countries, I think it's endless the opportunity. I mean, if you just look at the example that we just had, I'm going to say this badly, dichtbij.
Very good.
Imagine where you have the remote villages where people have no access at all.
Yeah.
Sure.
To be able to actually provide medical assistance remotely, I think, and there's millions of people that still need to be connected. So I think that the opportunity is huge.
Well, actually, we did this little poll and said what sectors need serious secure communications building blocks most. On top, medicine. I mean, 26% other people mentioned government, logistics, commerce, but medicine is way on top.
Yep.
That's not surprising, right?
Not at all. I mean, well, first it's life, then it's economy, I would say. And basically,
and people think probably about the Corona crisis as well. I mean, if we can do new applications in order to fight this terrible virus.
I think Beter Dichtbij saw a 25-fold increase of their 25-fold increase in 2 weeks' time, because all of a sudden all these doctors had no choice but to go remote or on video, and patients like it. But you need a crisis like Corona, apparently, to reset some of these systems, right? And now we have the opportunity to keep it anew after a reset. I think that's a challenging part.
And specifically in the U.S., where you have insurance companies declining pre-existing conditions. Yeah. So it's no surprise that medicine is
that's a huge issue.
Huge issue.
Yeah. What's your favorite application?
Well, my favorite application. I'm a big Uber fan, but also look at Park Mobile. If you, who's having the coin still for that?
But it's already there. I mean, we have
it
Park
is
Mobile
already there.
Similar applications. Right?
Yeah, I like the example I heard earlier that we need a Park Mobile Plus that sort of spots when the police comes to check and quickly signs up for the parking. I think that's the next phase.
Puts in the digital money. I mean, I was already here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether that's legal. But I don't know.
It's always interesting to make things smarter, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just also awareness of where I am. Do I have to park here, or do I have to pay here, or do I have a permit? And then automate these things because the information is somewhere.
But I think the key is that we need creativity from, let's say, the Zoomers. Who can think of these new things? So when we as the traditional companies, industries, provide the building blocks, that's the whole CPaaS philosophy, right? And API philosophy. You provide the building blocks, and then you make sure they're secure, and there's some sort of checks and balances, and then you can let creative startups do their thing.
And there's a question from Tobias Petersen. He says, does a regular SIM card with a number become unnecessary with everything in the cloud and with API? I don't know. Anybody?
Edwin,
Yes.
ASIM?
If you look at IoT technology, then indeed you can embed everything in the software right now and that identify where you are whatever you do and whatever functionality you need. So yes, in the end, a SIM and a number is old-fashioned already.
It's an identity, but the
Yeah.
identity could come from anywhere.
So in the introduction of this program, I said, we're only halfway through 2020, right? And so much has already changed. Everything becomes flexible and fluid. Imagine being back here with Rob and you guys late December. What's going to be the main topic?
I think there will be an acceleration of things which are, let's say, ready to decide. And I think parties will invest quicker now in the new business, in the new features. People will realize that COVID was a pandemic, but at the same time an accelerator of decisions going forward.
It was an interruption in a way.
It was
And
a
an
bad
accelerator.
And an accelerator
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah. In a way, it's a change catalyst, right? It gave us a big reset, and you know how sometimes you need a reset, right? You need a sabbatical to think clearly again. In a way, with all the terrible consequences of Corona, of course, I think in a couple of years' time we're going to look at this year as a turning point, because we get to really reinvent some of these issues. And if a couple of years from now we have telehealth in a much better way, so it's more affordable and more reliable and better, I think we're going to be grateful that we finally made those big leaps.
Before we come to a wrap up, I mean, we have a little thank you for all the people and companies, particularly who supported this event, this webinar. We have that slide? Not yet. Oh, we don't see it here in the studio. And finally, a little round around the table. I mean, I just asked, what's going to be the theme 6 months from now? What do you think, Susie?
So we've coined this word's war on talent. I think as you see all the companies like leaning in, trying to accelerate the digital agenda, and combined with the fact you can work from anywhere, I think how companies hire, it's going to require people to really rethink that. Because if I don't have to move to Holland to actually work for a company in Holland, we're going to have to rethink the whole entire way we hire. And I think that the companies that get the best talent around this are going to be the companies that are going to win in the end.
Because our daughter is 26 years old,
Yeah.
lives in San Francisco, works for Airbnb, and she said, a lot of people laid off, but particularly, the engineers were just scooped up by other companies.
Absolutely.
I mean, come work for us, come over
Absolutely.
here, we need you.
You got to have a future vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Looking forward?
I think the topic Susie mentioning is I think crucial. I think we hardly incorporated the millennial approach, and now we already have a new generation coming in with new ideas, much faster than we. I consider myself as a laggard. I'm working for an entrepreneurial company, but the thoughts of the young generation is essential to make this big step forward. And how do you connect what we can enable, how we can make it happen, and how can we use their ideas? I think that is extremely important the upcoming 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah. And what about you, Patrick?
I tell you, one thing I thought this whole pandemic has really shown is that people really can be effective working from remotely, working from home. But I think in the next 6 months, we need to step back and look and say, really, how well did things work? And are we really protecting the assets that we've got, the information that's flowing over the top for the most part? I think security is going to be very important. You guys, we talked about privacy earlier on. So let's say that there is some kind of regulation that kind of imposes different privacy regulations. How do you enforce those, right? So I think there's analytics play here as well as security.
Okay, wonderful. Raoul, what about you? Looking forward?
I think that 6 months from now we will be finally able to get a glimpse of what the new normal is, what it means in terms of working remotely or working in the office, what it means in terms of digital interactions. Healthcare has been coming up. I think that's a perfect example. And we will also have a better idea of how security requirements will be evolving. To your question just a few minutes ago, I could have answered all of the above. I think security is important for all of these industries. But of course, healthcare and other regulated industries, it will be a top priority for them. But that's what I see in 6 months.
Okay, wonderful. And finally, Frank?
Well, I'm a natural optimist, but I think in 6 months from now, we are in wave 2, deep down, because 94% 4% didn't have it yet. So actually, there will be a second wave of lockdown that will be probably a little bit more severe than what we had so far, at least in the Netherlands. That's what I think, unfortunately. But purely from a technology perspective, of course, everything that we started now will be even more important. And we have a little bit of experience, so it will accelerate further. And we also probably will discover that APIs don't make sound and are not visible. So although they are super powerful building blocks on CPaaS or whatever, it is also crucial that they are findable and that we find a way, like in the App Store, where you find apps, that APIs become visible.
Well, if we go into lockdown again, then of course the wine tasting becomes very important. Again.
That didn't get many votes though.
No,
but you know,
it got my vote. No, I think I'm hoping that 6 months from now, whether there's another lockdown or not, we're going to see this mindset change really stick. So we're going to have a different ecosystem. There's more room for creativity. There's more collaboration in all different ways, and there's an openness to look towards. Let's go back to what Drucker said. I mean, we need a new mindset. We can't work with the old logics.
Don't stick to the turbulence. I mean, look past it.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you look at it from that perspective, I mean, you're a little bit on the pessimistic side. We heard a lot of optimistic, predictions about technology and the way we can handle our huge problems and challenges. I think it's fair to say. And first of all, I say thank you to all our guests over here on the other side of the building. Thank you so much for joining us. That was terrific, wonderful. And looking at the future, probably you'd say, you ain't seen nothing yet. Thank you very much. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.